Good afternoon again, Mr. Secretary. Let me go back again to my colleague from Florida who is a good friend of mine, who I respect tremendously, and who knows I'm discussing this with you because we discussed this as we walked out. First of all, with regard to any possible movement on legislation as it relates to Cuba moving through the House, I just have to remind you that over 70% of the American public wants the embargo ended. Over 60% of the Cuban American community wants the embargo ended, okay? So that should tell you something about public opinion and about the possibilities of any actions that we may take here on the House side and on the Senate side. Secondly, let me just say, she mentioned the issue of remittance. I wanted to clarify this because the percentage of remittances is 20%, and then there's a 10% surcharge, FYI, and for the record. And my colleague from Florida understands that also. And I would suggest to you to look, as you have these talks, if you are, with the Cuban government, understand that some of us believe that taxes on income is appropriate. The more income we make, the more we're taxed. Now, the structure and the tax fairness of the issue has to be addressed. Now, whether that is consistent with Cuban policies as it relates to taxes, who knows? But for the record, most countries charge a tax on additional income.
Including this country.
Including our own country. And so I think we have to be fair as we approach any types of discussion on remittances and have to know what we're dealing with. Secondly, let me just go back to the issue of the involvement of the banks. And I asked you this earlier, and I want to pursue it with you a little bit because we want the CEOs of the banks that receive TARP money to tell us how much money they are investing in minority-owned newspapers and media outlets. I want to see those numbers. I want to see what they're doing, and then we need to talk about a strategy to commend them for their approach and the dollar amount and the percentages, or tell them they're going to have to do better. So we need the numbers, though, first, Mr. Secretary, and that's what we've communicated to yourself via letter and also to Vice President Biden. And third, okay. And I have one more.
As I said, I'll take a careful look at that.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. And members I know of the Congressional Black Caucus would appreciate that. And thirdly and finally, Congresswoman Waters and our economic recovery efforts have been really looking at minority hiring at the Treasury. And we have passed, and this was Congresswoman Waters' effort, and she actually worked to create a Office of Minority Affairs within the GSEs. The Federal Reserve, Chairman Bernanke, is looking at that model also. We're not sure if he needs legislation or not, but we wanted to know if you would consider, or are you considering, any efforts within Treasury to establish an Office of Minority Affairs or something similar to what the GSEs are doing. And we'd like some information on your minority hiring in terms of the diversity of your staff and also the contracting out of your office.
Happy to give you any information on hiring and on contracting, and I will have not considered before, but I will consider, as the GSEs and the Fed are considering your suggestion, on an office.
Okay.
Well, we'll consider, as any suggestion, I'll consider carefully that suggestion.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving us the time for a second go-around, because we're going to continue to pursue these.
And we're getting down to